Divorced and Dealing, written by Raul Barrios, narrated by Sky Ali. Chapter 1. Time. Time, which is supposed to heal all wounds from within oneself over a period of time, would help you from moving on, from that period until time had moved on, making you forget about that time when you would have had healed from that time. This being a saying would mean you would be healed from the pain, from this pain that had come to you. That pain, the one I had just started speaking of, still inside there, still inside the form of a man by the name Jonathan. Some days the pain would be gone, erased by a busy day from doing all sorts of things. Waking up the next day, waking up rolling around in the sheets. The mind wondering about things from the past, all come back suddenly, coming like from a bolt of lightning, igniting from inside the heartbroken thingy that simply was called Jonathan's broken heart. Thinking about it was not the part that hurt from his remembrance in the flashbacks of dreaming from within his mind. It was the dreams. It was the reenactment parts, replaying in his head time after time, time after time. At first, Jonathan thinking about his past did not bother him one bit. To him, a reminder of what life was like when he was married to Michelle in those 6 short months. "Breakfast is up and ready," Jonathan's brother's wife Sherry, making the call out to the whole house, to whoever was hearing the news, saying this from a loud tone, making sure the kids upstairs hearing loudly and clearly enough to hear her call out. The sound of footsteps, noises, followed by trampling sounds making their way heard downstairs to Sherry, replying, "I guess the kids heard the announcement then," saying with a funny grin, feeling it to herself. The basement, converted 8 years ago, turned now into Jonathan's living space, being part bedroom, part man cave for himself living situation. The plan? The plan? The plan never intending to be here this long. After the divorce, the plan was to set up the basement for a temporary way of things until everything was settled from the divorce proceedings, followed by finding a place at a later date had never come for Jonathan after all. Things just happen. Jonathan already awake and ready for the past hour. He did not come up to the kitchen until he heard the 3 kids in the kitchen. Hearing them starting to eat their breakfast. First before himself making his appearance next. Samuel, age 8, Stephen, age 7, Sarah making the last of the 3 at the age of 5. All sitting, eating, chatting away. Spoons and forks clacking on the plates. Jonathan walking into the kitchen, kissing each kid on the forehead as usual before heading to the spot next to the fridge, where the food had been laid out for the adults to have at it. Sitting, taking a few sips of his orange juice before digging into Sherry's awesome French toast making ability. Smiling at everything around himself. He looked at each kid smiling, thinking to himself how he had played a part in raising all 3. His mind relishing the thoughts, rehashing the last 8 years as wonderful years to him, telling his mind. This, playing a part in the reasoning from Jonathan never having to move out, being there for all 3 births, being there for all the doctor appointments, being there for babysitting duties, now followed by preschool appointments, first day of school milestones. Jonathan being there for all the crucial moments one needed to be at when raising children. Jeff and Sherry greatly appreciative for Jonathan's help. Jeff being the older brother by 3 years. Always being the last one to come down for breakfast. Jeff was a person who loved to take long showers in the mornings, always being obsessed with his hair, making sure it was gelled right, followed by the combing style of his hair, making sure his hair was nice and tight before heading out for the day's work. Sherry always thinking about Jeff's devo, male version of what a female diva was, moment would end sometime when they were married. Jeff's hair care never relented, still staying true until this day. Jonathan, nothing like this at all. Jonathan's hair and beard grew out until he felt it was time to cut it before letting it grow out once again. Jonathan's motto? Have a trimmed beard. Have hair that went down enough to make a ponytail out of. Nothing too drastic, but simple for him. For example, he was not trying to look like Jesus Christ, with the full beard or full hair draping down. Jeff coming down the stairs. Today, coming down would be an exciting moment. He could not wait to share with his children and with his brother Jonathan. Sherry. Keeping the secret the two had talked about the night before. Jeff announcing the news during breakfast, which they agreed upon when sharing the news to everyone. Jeff loved his children, loved his wife Sherry more and more each day, as he would say to her and the kids each night when the five, along with Jonathan, would pray before heading to bed every night. Sometimes Jonathan, not able to show up for the prayers because he was lost in a game he had been playing online with some strangers. Jeff never minding, saying escapism was okay for his baby brother, especially when his brother needed a break away from the kids, himself, and Sherry, let alone just escaping the world sometimes was understandable. Jeff and Jonathan went to high school at Timberline, a high school located in Olympia, Washington. During their sophomore year, Jeff met Sherry in physical education class. Jeff explaining to his friends it was as if Cindy Crawford's soda commercial where she drinks that soda can from the machine and that song. Just one look played out inside his head while seeing Sherry for the very first time. This is how I fell in love with Sherry, when watching her take a sip out of her soda, saying to myself, holy shit, the Lord has just blessed me with an angel sipping on some soda, right before my eyes. The boys around him, having to hear this love-struck fool, just say the whole phrase to them. They all laugh, sitting in the bleachers, all not believing someone had been that starstruck over a female. Jonathan always having to hear the same story at the wedding anniversary dinners. The three kids always wondering on what Dad was talking about when Jeff retold the story over and over again. Sherry quietly staring off into her husband's eyes, always re-falling in love with him when he retold that story time and time again. Jonathan, always able to see the reaction from Sherry's face. It always made him smile about how corny his older brother was. Always. Then glad to see his brother and his sister-in-law were always in a good place in their marriage. In premarital counseling, Jonathan and Michelle were reminded of the principal theory. Every day would not be glorious ones. You had to work on it every day to make your marriage work out. Every day you have to compliment. Every day you had to kiss one goodnight, followed by a kiss in the morning and saying, "Good morning, beautiful. How was your rest?" Jonathan looking at his brother with a smile after hearing what the pastor was saying to him from his thoughts, thinking of the moment back when. Jeff kissing his wife slowly. Sherry broke from his lips, quickly saying if he was going to share the news with the family, in the news that we had talked about sharing with everyone here from what we talked about last night. She said, wanting the news to come out now. "My bad, my love," Jeff saying, looking at his kids, his wife, and then looking back at his brother Jonathan. Still trying to wake up from the morning, Jonathan asks, "What is the news, brother? What exciting thing do you two have to talk about before the day begins?" "Well," Jeff starts off, holding Sherry in his arms, curling her waist, her arms on top of his. "We are going to move in a few months into a bigger house." Jeff screaming in excitement. The kids stopping from their clattering of their utensils, giving a then confused look at their parents. Jonathan saves the day by moving in closer to the three, telling the children in 2 words, "Bigger house." The kids scream out in cheering form then. Why didn't I get that reaction when I made the announcement? Jeff looking at Jonathan. "Who knows, brother?" Jonathan saying with a laugh. Everyone, including Jonathan again, all embrace in one symbiotic hug, all excited about moving into a new home. Jonathan and Jeff leave, for they always left for work before the school bus came for the kids. Jeff kissing Sherry once more before saying goodbye. Jonathan kisses the foreheads of the kids before leaving, followed by giving Sherry a fist bump before saying goodbye. Jonathan and Jeff work together in a lumber plant that breaks down trees, turning those trees into paper products. Tree Lumber's Scaling and Fold, located in the next city below Olympia, Tumwater, the city where Jeff was driving them to. First thing Jeff had said when the two left, why weren't the kids excited when I had said the news about us moving? Complaining a little to Jonathan. The kids are young, brother. They do not yet understand the excitement of home ownership, and like how we are excited to own a home when we are able to buy one. Is that how you and Michelle felt when you two bought that house? Jeff, bringing up an old wound, just realizing before saying it. Something like that, brother. Jonathan not fazed by the question. Jeff changing the subject, telling his brother some bad news he was not sure of how he would bring up the news to him. Me and Sherry are grateful for all the help you have helped us with over the years. Jeff stumbling over his words now. What are you trying to say? Jonathan sensing the pussyfooting his brother Jeff was trying to do around him. With the sale pending, closing coming in a few months, we were hoping you would want to find a place of your own to move into, Jeff suggesting. You are kicking me out, brother? Jonathan laughing, staring at the cars around him, passing him by like a volt of something had just kicked in him from what Jeff had just said to him. Not intentionally, brother, Jeff saying in his defense. After 8 years of living with us, we would like to have a place, living where it would be just us and the kids. No offense, brother. Jeff apologizing again. You understand what I am trying to say to you, brother? Jeff sounding off when speaking to him, worried about Jonathan's reply. Before he could think of another thing, Jonathan chimed in by saying, it was not a big deal moving out. Really, brother? Jeff shocked at his brother's response. You are not upset about moving out? Jeff asking again. Not really. I figured that I would have to find a place of my own someday once the kids got bigger. Whoosh, Jeff saying, wiping the sweat from his brow. I was afraid you would have took the news hard or something. Hitting the left shoulder of his brother from a play-like fashion, Jeff added that the move was about 2 months away still, before the sale was final, so Jonathan had time on his hand. Jeff adding, I'll start looking this weekend for a place then. Jonathan not being fazed about anything. I am glad to hear this, brother. Jeff feeling assurance. With all the money saved over the years, brother, you should be able to buy a house without any problems. Jonathan giving a fake smile back at his brother. Jonathan added that buying a house was a good idea. He just needed to do some research on the housing market, for it might had changed in the last 8 years with the times. Jonathan also saying he was not up to date on buying or renting these days, so he wanted to do some research on the matter before any done deals. Your credit should be excellent, brother. You never buy shit. All you do is save, save, save. You should be in great shape, brother. Jeff feeling proud, praising his brother. Jonathan shaking his head, saying yeah with a smile. Turning into the job parking lot. Before unlocking the car to let the two out, Jeff asked his brother if he had ever looked on social media, looking up his ex-wife Michelle online by any chance. A quick no, shaking his head back to Jeff. I never had a reason to look her up online. Not once in the 8 years since? Jonathan not caring about his ex from social media inquiry. The keys coming out of the ignition. The door still locked. Jeff asks before they get out of the car. He had some news to share with him. Jonathan all ears to Jeff, starting to wonder now if there were more news Jeff wanted to share with his brother. Thinking that this news was something he had not wanted to share with the kids or Sherry during breakfast time earlier. Me and Sherry were curious some time ago, wondering how Michelle was doing, Jeff starts. Jonathan took hold of his brother's keys, pressing the unlock switch, getting out next from the passenger side. Opening the back door, putting on his work belt, followed by putting on his hard hat and goggles. Jeff, not done with his conversation with his brother yet, he stopped Jonathan in front of him, not letting him move forward. "What is it, brother? What do you want to say?" Jonathan feeling as if both did not need to chat about the subject concerning his ex-wife anymore. "Well, brother," Jeff started, "here is what happened when me and Sherry looked up Michelle from an online site we found after looking her up. She got married. She got married 2 more times after your divorce from her. Right now, as we speak, she is going through her 3rd divorce." Jonathan, leaning back with one leg up, leaning on the truck, taking in the news given to him by Jeff. "One more thing, brother. She also has a 3-year-old daughter." Stonewalling, just standing there leaning, Jonathan taking it all in. "I am not trying to make you feel like crap," Jeff emphasized. "I just wanted you to know that her life had moved on after you. Sherry, along with myself, we thought maybe a few years after the divorce you might have wanted to date again. Branch out again into the world. Sadly, though, we saw you never did, though, which was totally okay. Everyone has their period of time of when to move forward or just take a break from life." From a calm tone when speaking back to his brother, Jonathan explained he was never holding on to the past with Michelle. To him, things happened which were preventing him from moving on. "We respect your privacy, brother," Jeff saying sincerely. "One day while Sherry was vacuuming your room, she found a shoebox underneath your bed that had been sticking out a little a few years ago. She thought maybe this was an empty box from a new pair of shoes that you had bought, but she noticed some writing on the top of the box saying, 'Last time I was ever happy,' written on top of the box from a pen, I believe." "Did Sherry open the box?" Jonathan asked. "Of course not. She just slid the box back under your bed, leaving it as if." "Good," Jonathan replied. "What was in the box?" Jeff questioned. Jonathan replied the box contained wedding photos from the day he got married. "I am not trying to pour salt on your wound, brother, but you two were only married for 6 months. In that short time, how many memories did you two really make?" Jeff arguing at the notion. "Enough," Jonathan said back to his brother. "From my perspective, I think we made, meaning I made, enough memories, I suppose," saying with a chuckle at himself. Jeff hugged his brother and the two went into their workstations, meeting up again in 4 hours for their 30-minute lunch break. Chapter 2. Both ordering burritos from the taco truck that had pulled up right on time every day of the week since the job at the worksite had started 4 months ago. Both Jonathan and Jeff sitting at the back edge of Jeff's truck beginning to eat their food during their break. Their 2 other co-workers, Biscuit and Wright, joined them. Biscuit's truck parked along next Jeff's. The 4 chatted during their lunch break. "What's up, guys?" Biscuit and Wright say then, shaking hands with Jonathan and Jeff. "We on for the Knight's Den tomorrow night after our shifts?" Biscuit asking the group, before taking a bite of his sandwich he had ordered from the vending truck. Wright nodding a yes, Jeff nodding a yes as well. Jonathan, taking a bite out of his burrito, taking a sip from his soda can. No nodding coming from him. Biscuit walking up to Jonathan's face, staring at him with his eyes lingering into Jonathan's face, asking the question to him once more. "Are you going with us tomorrow night, Jonathan?" Continuing to eat, avoiding the presence of Biscuit in his face, Wright then complains to the group on how Jonathan never goes out with them anywhere. Wright argues maybe Jonathan is gay or something. Forming a joke out of Jonathan for being quiet, Jeff interjects, jumping off the bed of the truck, walking up to Wright's face, asking he retrack on what he just said about calling his brother gay. Looking towards Jonathan, Wright apologizes. "I did not mean in any way to call you gay, my friend. It is just, people around here have been wondering on why you never go to any of the functions the union has provided for us to hang out and party at. Let alone when all the workers finish a job site, we all go to the Knight's Den at times. Yet you are the only one who does not go with anyone. Not even when your brother comes with us." "Come out with us," Wright begs, placing his hands on each of Jonathan's thighs, being funny-like. "You will have a good time, I can promise you that." Biscuit interjecting. "We understand. Most of us here at work know you live a private life. We are just wondering if you would like to hang out with your fellow coworkers at times." Thank you, Biscuit, and thank you, Wright. I just like my quiet time, that's all. Getting off the truck, throwing his trash away, putting on his work belt, getting back to his task at hand. Jeff, Biscuit, Wright, forming a triangle. Wright says to Jeff he needs to convince his brother to go out with them tomorrow night. "What is so important about tomorrow night?" Jeff argues. Biscuit and Wright saying at the same time, "Nothing." Wright arguing they need to just all go out at once, rather than just working together as a foursome when after work, meeting for drinks, they become a threesome. The next day, Friday night, the Knight's Den, located at the corner of College and Sutton, located on the side of a busy four-way street lane. Biscuit, Wright, coming here from a rideshare. Jeff and Jonathan being dropped off by Sherry and the kids, the two getting out from the back seat. After about 5 rounds of drinks, everyone was telling stories, telling jokes, everyone glad to unwind from another long week of tree trimming. "I was married once before being with my current wife," Wright said to the three. "I understand about this thing they call the funk, where everything just stops in your tracks, making you not want to do anything after you get divorced. Sometimes you close yourself off. Sometimes you feel the relief of it and you just want to party and sleep with anything, hoping to replace the one piece with the other piece who had hurt you in the past. I met my current wife Courtney one day 3 years ago. She was the blessing I had been looking for after my divorce." Biscuit adding next, "You will find the peace which will pull you together someday when you know it is the right time again to fall in love." "Thank you for those kind words," Jonathan saying to Biscuit and Wright. "Last call," shouted the PA system, announcing to the whole bar. Everyone started drinking whatever they had in their hands as fast as they could, so they could order another bucket of rounds before being cut off among each guy. Outside, waiting for their rides to come and pick them all up, all four agreed to meet again next Friday after work, at the same place, at the same time again. In the back seat, Jeff embracing his brother, saying he was proud of him for coming out tonight, with him and the guys. "Tonight you made progress, brother. I want you to know you are making an effort to come out into the world again tonight. I am proud of you, brother." Jonathan explaining he wanted to try and be part of society again, meaning by being part of the female species onlooking team again, saying it playfully like, "Good brother, that is what I want to hear." Jeff embracing Jonathan again. Getting undressed, getting into his night clothes after his shower, Jeff was so excited when crawling into bed. He woke up Sherry telling her about the progress Jonathan had made by going out tonight with him and the guys. Laying in the covers, facing each other face to face, Sherry asked Jeff if he had told Jonathan about finding a place of his own. "I told him about that when we drove into work this morning. He is going to look for an apartment this weekend," Jeff assuring her. "Why doesn't he look into buying a house?" Sherry questioned. "I do not know. I asked him the same question, but I think he wants to just save money and wait for the right moment to buy a house, dear." Kissing Sherry's lips. Breaking from the lip lock, Sherry adds if he does that, then that means he would be tied up in a lease for at least a year if he were to rent, pointing out. Re-kissing his wife's lips again, adding afterwards on how lucky he was to have such a beautiful wife. She turns to her side so he can spoon with her, and the two falling asleep. Jeff clutching her tightly, soon both falling asleep afterwards in an instant. Downstairs, Jonathan sitting on his bed, the television turned on still. Sarah, the youngest, had snuck out of her room to sleep downstairs with her uncle tonight. Already fast asleep, Jonathan covered her up snugly for himself, quietly putting a blanket on the seat recliner, so he could pass out, leaving Sarah to take the whole bed. She already was spread out, leaving Jonathan nowhere to sleep. In a dream, Jonathan remembered a time, his mind taking him back to where he was holding Michelle, staring at her naked back, looking at her back tattoo she got a few months before they got married, staring at it, analyzing it for no apparent reason. just staring at her naked back while he slept. Feeling Jonathan was awake, Michelle turned over to face her husband. "Hey, you. You are not tired from me yet," Michelle saying in the dark with a smile. Jonathan, barely able to see her smile in the darkness of the room. "We have been married for 3 days so far. When do you think is a good time to start a family?" Michelle starting to kiss Jonathan all over. "Not yet," Jonathan let out, stopping her from kissing him anymore. "Well, when then?" Michelle asked, digging into the question. "I'm only 23. You are 21. What is the rush?" Jonathan waking himself from the argument he was having with himself from the dream. The toilet flushing, the lights turned back off. Jonathan looking at Sarah, Sarah crawling back into Jonathan's bed. "What is the matter, Uncle?" Sarah asking. Jonathan telling he woke up after hearing the toilet flush. "I could go back into my room if you walk me to it," Sarah said, getting up. Jonathan sat next to her, telling her it was okay, she could stay. Jonathan putting the blanket back on her, kissing her forehead. Himself then on the recliner with his blanket on himself. Waking up early for a Saturday, Jonathan knew he could sleep in all day if he wanted to. There was no work until Monday again. Sarah still asleep. 8:34 a.m. the wall clock read. Jonathan opened his phone, clicking over to the search bar. He typed the word Michelle DeSantos, seeing if anything had come up. The search engine working a little slow. In a moment, the name came up on the web page. Jonathan immediately closing the page with the names showing their search results, not wanting to look at them. Leaning back in the recliner, Jonathan closed his eyes once again. Not to sleep, but to say the words, "Thank you, God, for all that you give me," a phrase that he would always say before sleeping each night. Jonathan knew he was blessed from having a simple life, and he was grateful for every day he had on this earth. "And we are back," a voice came out from the radio airways, sounding soothing, quiet-like form. "Tonight's topic is, should you let your man go down there before taking a shower?" Caller is Tristan from Federal Way. "You are on the air. Speak or forever hold your peace." "Well, the caller voice says from the other end of the phone. "I mean, should it really matter in a way? I mean, me and my lady can be in the mood just like that, and we have known each other for 2 years, so I think it would be okay." Responding back to the radio station. Nadia taking a sip of her water before replying back on the microphone. "Okay, caller, I get what you're saying, and I get it. But in this situation, you are on your own, and that is all that I'm going to say about that. Cue to commercial." Nadia calls to the producer, signaling her right arm to cut the feed for the commercial break. "Another great week in the books," producer Steven says to Nadia. Nadia, or from her radio persona, Nadi, had started to become a fan favorite from her radio show, which aired 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., Monday to Fridays. The radio show, located in downtown Olympia, located in the heart of downtown, in a rented building overlooking the 4th Avenue busy streets, which was the heart of the partying scene in downtown Olympia. Nadia is the youngest out of the 3 in the family, born 4 years after Jonathan was born. Jeff at 31, Jonathan 27, Nadia finishing 3rd at 23. Her local radio show, Nadia After Dark, premiered 3 months ago. Before that, Nadia was an intern at the time, coming to the station after her classes were done at the Evergreen College, located 10 miles away. Her degree she had been working on for the past 2 years was a degree in journalism by wanting to be a reporter someday, where she could move to Seattle. Working over there at one of the main radio stations like Keto 7 in downtown Seattle. Nadia, always a person who liked to speak her mind, as well as someone who liked to carry a conversation. One day, one of the radio shows caught wind of her talking to a friend in the break room. He liked the sound of her voice, feeling as if her voice could be something sounding good on the radio airwaves. Jeff and Jonathan were the quiet ones compared to their sister. Nadia was asked by one of the shows that aired during the drive home if she wanted to try her hands on talking on the radio about any subject that she wanted to talk about. This was the radio show's way of putting out new things to draw in new listeners on the air. Nadia loved to voice her opinion to the radio listeners, making sure, of course, she held back any foul language, and making sure she did not lean to one side, always making sure she was not biased toward any one-sided subject. Her popularity grew from her mini segments about love, breakups, couple makeups, etc. When her segments got popular after she had graduated from Evergreen, she had been offered the nightly slot, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., which at the time had been in a slump for the last 4 years. That show had been changed 3 times, finding it hard to find a listening audience that wanted to listen to the radio airways during the show's time slot. The producers asked Nadia if she would want to try her hands at hosting her own show, taking over that time slot, hoping she would take the opportunity. She did it without hesitation. Her show, entitled Naughty After Dark, giving buzz to radio listeners who wanted something different to listen to, rather than listen to what the other shows in the daytime would play on the radio. Her show never changed from the segments she had started to talk about from her mini-segments, from the busy hour of the day, skits she had done from the other show. The show became a hit from the bat. Ratings were well received. Each week she had always maintained a good following of listeners waiting to hear her show start at 7 p.m. Her show was just like before, from talking about love, couples, breakups, sex advice. Sometimes these topics had to be changed to avoid censorship, but mainly she was free to talk about what she wanted to talk about. Jonathan and Jeff tried their best to not hear their sister talk about this kind of stuff because they were related to her, and they did not want to hear some of the topics she talked about. Sherry, on the other hand, did not mind hearing it. When Nadia was on the air, Sherry would place one piece of her headphones in one ear so she could hear the broadcast while attending to the kids or doing some house stuff or cleaning some dishes. Sherry would ask Jeff if he wanted to know what his sister was talking about tonight. Jeff quickly saying, "I do not want to hear anything about her talking." Saying it would make him feel weird, he said, making a cringe-worthy face to Sherry. This sometimes would make Jeff paranoid when Sherry and him had sex and something had been different from Sherry, from trying a new move on him or something. From the back of his mind he would think, did my sister talk about this new move to do to your husband? His mind cringing at the thought. None of Jeff's or Jonathan's inner circle knew about Nadia being in radio, having her own show, because most of their friends just kept to themselves at home after work, or they were out drinking after work. Not any of them listening to talk radio, rather listening to their music from their phones instead. Jonathan in the studio tonight, picking up his little sister because Nadia was not allowed to drive because she had partied a few times too much around the 4th Avenue scene. She feared she might be getting a DUI if she continued to drive to work, so it was easier for her to take the bus home or take a rideshare, or ask one of her brothers to drive her home. Today, Monday, the first day of the new week starting for the two of them. Driving off in the car, Nadia started the conversation with, "Inquiring minds want to know how you feel about your brother taking you out with the guys to the Knight's Den on Friday. Did you have a good time? Who told you about this? Jeff or Sherry?" Jonathan asking back. "Sherry told me," Nadia responded. "It was fine. I had no problem getting back into society with the world again." Nadia glad to hear this. She knew, like Jeff and Sherry knew, 8 years was enough of staying hidden from the world. All that money you had saved from the last 8 years, you should be able to get you a nice house, right, brother? Questioning Jonathan's finances. "I am renting," Jonathan said back. "Renting? Why the hell would you do that when you could just buy a house?" "I am not comfortable right now at buying a house. I just want to rent an apartment right now and see about getting a house later, sister. That is all to it." Jonathan pleading his case to her. Nadia dropped it, changing topics to wondering how her brother felt like from being inside a bar with people and talking to people again, asking on how all that felt to him. Also adding how proud she was for him for finally taking a step in moving forward with his life from going out in public again. "Was I really that much of a hermit?" Jonathan inquired to Nadia. "Yeah, you kind of were, brother. You were getting to the point where we all thought you would never go out in public again." Nadia fearing. Well, sister, that is not going to happen anymore. I am on a new path now, proudly replying back. I hope this new path brings me more out into the world, Jonathan feeling proud of himself for saying this. Are you saying you want to put yourself out there and try to date again? Nadia excited when asking. Come on, brother, Nadia saying with excitement in her voice. You looking to start up that machinery that had been frozen cold in your body for so long? She said, hitting his shoulder in a funny-like tone. I am not having this conversation with my sister right now, Jonathan saying, staring at the road without looking back at her when saying this. Why not? I can be very helpful in that department, Nadia praising herself when saying. If Nadia were not blood-related, this conversation would have been a topic of conversation on her radio show, telling himself. This one thing that had always baffled Jonathan and Jeff were on how did their little sister become so sexualized with things. Jeff and Jonathan were very personal about this sort of stuff, rather than how Nadia was openly about this stuff. You know Jeff has 3 kids, Nadia pointed out. It's not like the stork came to the door every few years, knocked at the door and said, guess what? By dropping a baby in front of Sherry and Jeff every so often. Jonathan told himself to not think about this baiting that Nadia was trying to do to him. What about you? Nadia asked Jonathan. Do you do your very own prostate exam by rubbing one out every so often, brother? Questioning him, staring at him directly while his eyes kept staring at the road ahead. Next, he turned the radio up a few notches, trying to block out what Nadia had just asked him. Do not try to drown me out through music, brother, she laughed, while turning the radio back down a few clicks. If I were you, brother, I would have started dating a few years after the divorce, maybe even date a few months after, proving to yourself you could move on just like Michelle had moved on from you. She pauses then, wondering what was on her brother's mind, noticing he had been more quiet now as of the moment. Did you move on, brother? Nadia asking sorrowfully. Only the tires rolling over and over again was the noise that could be heard in the car. Nobody else on the road but Jonathan's car. Driving up a semi-hill into a quiet neighborhood, up in the hills overlooking the downtown Olympia farmers market. Pulling up in the driveway, both could see no lights were on. Unbuckling first, Nadia quickly hugged Jonathan tightly in her grasp, followed by an apology for the last thing she had said a few seconds ago. Does Jeff and Sherry know you still miss Michelle? Wondering what her brother would say back to her. Whispering in a soft tone back, saying nobody knew he still missed Michelle at times, and he would like to keep it that way. Okay, Nadia said back, hugging her brother back. Stepping outside, she walked over to his window, asking if he wanted to come inside, possibly meeting her new roommate that had just moved in. Realizing the setup Nadia was trying to do for him, he shook his head, giving her a smile back, saying he had get home and go get Jeff because they were going back out to the Knight's Den tonight for drinks. 2 Fridays in 2 weeks? You are going back out again, brother? That is good, Nadia saying cheerfully back to him. Jeff outside, pacing like a man in a worry-state mood, quickly then noticing Jonathan pulling into the driveway. Racing to get inside the car, he fastens his seatbelt, telling Jonathan to hurry the hell up and back out. Burn the tires. Get us out of the neighborhood, Jeff saying with excitement. Jonathan worried if taking Jeff was getting him out of a fight or something. Jeff nodded a quick no, replying he wanted to get good seats because there was a game on tonight and the place might be packed. Jonathan arguing on what difference does it matter on where they sit tonight. Brother, we have to get seats close enough to the bar on weekends minus last Friday. They have less waitresses working because they want them to make money, so if you are sitting in the back, the waitresses do not really attend to those people in the back because all of the action is in the front of the bar. What is so special about tonight? Jonathan wondering. Biscuit called me an hour ago telling me that the Knight's Den was doing something new tonight, Jeff saying. He advised we get there early tonight so we could get some good seats. Is this really the reason we are leaving in a hurry tonight? Jonathan looking at his brother with that eye. Look, brother, it is also that time of the month for Sherry, and I did not want to wait for you inside the house with 3 kids driving us crazy right now. And the fact that she was on the rag right now, too. Yes, it is a dick move, brother. Jeff feeling remorseful. But I needed to have my me time just as much as Sherry has hers when she goes out with her girlfriends. She will have hers next and I'll be the one watching the kids, so in the end, it worked itself out, brother. Jeff making a point on how things are from their marriage would be compromising between the two. Be thankful you and Michelle did not have any kids. Jeff pulling out a cigarette to smoke before they got there. Jonathan ignoring what Jeff had just said next, kindly asking Jeff to lower the window while he smoked. Arriving, Biscuit and Wright see Jeff and Jonathan getting out of the car. The four meet up, exchanging greetings in the parking lot. Walking up to the entrance, all four felt a weird sensation, noticing everyone was single file lined up, being frisked and searched by police guards at the front door. When Jeff was the first to be frisked, he asked the security person on when did this new policy begin. It was not here last Friday, Jeff argued the fact. People. About 5 people in front of Jeff all said simultaneously at once, speed dating. It's a new thing the owner is trying out for Friday nights, the security said to Jeff and the 3. Something new would not hurt anyone, Biscuit said. We are all married except for Jonathan, Wright argued back. They all laughed about it next, walking into the place. The 4 inside immediately noticing the changed environment being made for Friday night speed dating. The left side of the place when you walked in were made for all the speed dating participants with tables aside for people who connected and wanted to talk more about each other. From the right side, the tables were set up where people could sit in groups of 4 or more, where if there was 8 people, you could push the tables together if needed. Some of the booths from the left side of the place were moved to the right side, being set by the windows for people who had just been in a group of 4. Biscuit pointing this out to the 3, they all followed him leading to their booth to sit with, 2 on each side. It had just turned 7 p.m., too early from the big crowds to be coming in yet, but now with the speed dating being introduced tonight, being the first night of it, the Knight's Den was very, very busy tonight. Everyone crunched in from the right side of the inside bar as the people who were not involved with the speed dating game were all crammed up to the bar. The 4 sitting down now, starting off with their usual pitchers of draft beer first, followed with 15 wings to start off as an appetizer next. Biscuit was the first, starting to talk shit about the speed dating going on from the other side of the bar. I tell you 3, I am so glad I do not have to look for love anymore. Today the dating world would suck for us 3 if we wanted to look for love with speed dating and all. How so? Jeff asked Biscuit. Think about it, guys. Biscuit looking at the 3. You are sitting down at a table and you have a limited amount of time to pitch yourself to a woman in hopes she will be interested in you. No thank you, Biscuit says, filling his glass up from the pitcher. It was hard enough for me years ago getting Amanda to be going out with me, pre-online dating times, Biscuit saying. I would not want to play this game where you pitch yourself either, Wright says next. Amen. Biscuit and Wright, clanking their glasses together in unison, agreeing. Jeff leans into his brother, apologizing for Biscuit and Wright's behavior tonight. It's fine, brother, Jonathan whispering back to his brother. Jonathan, knowing the 3 with him tonight were happy with what they had in their wives. Being single was not a bad thing from Jonathan's mind. It was just his path in the road right now, telling himself. An hour in, Jonathan's bladder was ready to be emptied. Excusing himself, afterwards making himself towards the end of the bar to get a drink, to take back to the table after the restroom. An empty spot was open at the bar. Taking a seat, looking around for the waitress to make her way to him, trying to order a mojito to bring back with him to rejoin the guys. A woman sitting next to the seat, she was sipping the last of her drink in a quick fashion. Jonathan looking at her, noticing she looked like Whitney Houston from her second album cover, Whitney. She notices him, looking at him. She looks back at him, saying hello with a flashing smile. My name is Katrina, shaking Jonathan's hand. Jonathan, saying back to her. Are you here for the speed dating too? She questions him. Jonathan says no with a smile, explaining he is here drinking with his brother and a couple of co-workers, turning his head, pointing a finger to show where they were sitting at. Wright, noticing Jonathan sitting at the bar talking to a woman, pointing it out to Biscuit and Jeff. Good on him, Biscuit says. Jeff smiles next, happy to see his brother talking to a female for once, knowing it had been way too long of a time since Jonathan had even said hello to any female in years. Wright put a cigarette in his mouth afterwards, saying something disrespectful, causing Biscuit to put an arm on Wright's neck. I did not know that your brother, Wright looking at Jeff, was into night riding, joking the term that Jonathan was talking to an African-American female. That was Katrina talking to Jonathan at the bar. Biscuit, who was African-American himself, put a grip from his big hand on Wright's throat, saying next, You do not ever disrespect any race ever again, or we, looking at Jeff, will tell everyone here and at work, and then we'll tell your current wife that you are a racist. Wright quickly apologizing, saying that his brother's sailor talk was in poor taste from the phrase he had just said. Wright put an arm on both Biscuit and Jeff's shoulder, saying he was sorry for even saying the term. Biscuit said it was okay now, and the three should just drink and eat some wings. I hear that, Wright said back, putting some more wings on his plate. Katrina asking Jonathan on what he did for a living, noticing his bearded face, flannel shirt, out-of-place black ponytail hair, messed around, not combed-like. Explaining to her he was into lumber, where he cut the trees or he sawed them into paper, or sometimes he did the shredding of the branches, clearing forest from trees at times. Katrina countered back, saying she was a photographer and waitress at this bar. I used to live in New York, but I wanted to come out to the West Coast because my boss, pointing out to a man sitting at the end of the bar, his name is Rocky. Rocky is friends with my mom, and he told her about myself coming down to Olympia and seeing a different kind of scenery from what I was used to in New York. Why not go to Los Angeles? Jonathan inquired. Your photographic skills would see better landmarks down there than they would have up here in boring Olympia, Washington. Katrina laughs. You obviously do not know your state and how beautiful the Pacific Northwest, implying the name call that people referred to when talking about Washington State. So many photographers take trips here each year to take all these wonderful photos you see in postcards, or in images you see online when your computer screen is locked, Katrina pointing out before taking another sip of her drink. I was taught that this state was depressing and boring when growing up, Jonathan replies. I read that part too, Katrina says, laughing. She puts her hands on his beard and asks him next on why he never shaves it down, just asking the question, wondering it to herself. Replying he liked it and just never wanted it to come off of his face, but he does trim it down at times before letting it grow out again. The two now staring at each other, both in that quiet, awkward silence mode, both not knowing of what to say next. To break the awkwardness, Jonathan started first by saying he should get back to sitting with his friends and brother that he had originally came here with. Sipping her last swallow from her drink, she took his hand, not saying a word. Taking him to the dance floor located on the speed dating side, Jeff, Wright, and Biscuit saw what was going on now. Amazed, all three of them praising Jonathan for getting that woman on the dance floor to dance with him. The first word Katrina said to Jonathan while her arms were around his shoulders was the stiff word. Jonathan was stiff in his dancing skills, pointed out to him right there at this moment. You need to loosen up and take off your jacket, asking Jonathan taking his jacket off, Katrina handing it to a waitress, telling her to put the jacket with her stuff in the back, the waitress giving her a smile back while taking it. The jacket off, Katrina noticed the left arm covered in a full sleeve of tattoos leading down just before the hand started. Jonathan's preference for shirts were wearing V-neck shirts rather than collared ones. Katrina's eyes beginning to notice Jonathan's body was cut from the workout perspective, thinking to herself Jonathan was a worker who took well care of his body from working with the trees. Her next thing she wondered in her mind was why he wore heavy jackets in trying to hide his physique. She did understand regular men, the ones who did not care about their looks, were never the ones who would parade them around if they knew they had a good-looking body to them. Her mind beginning to think Jonathan might be one of those men who does not realize his worth to the female species when he was around any of them. Johnny Rivers' song, swaying to the music, starts playing from the speakers. Jonathan pulls Katrina closer to him, holding her right palm, just holding it a little high as the song plays. His eyes looking back at hers, he goes into rewind mode, thinking of how this song was one of the songs that played at his wedding to Michelle. The memory from the dancing was still there in his mind. Michelle in her white dress, Jonathan in his black tux. The memory had not left yet from all those years ago. As the two danced, moving around the dance floor, some moves by turning Katrina around a few times. His mind had Michelle staring at him in her white dress, quickly turning back into Katrina before turning back into Michelle, quickly again turning back into Katrina. Inside Jonathan's mind, he knew in what was happening right now was a messed up thing his mind was trying to do to him. Himself telling himself into his inner thoughts to stop doing that. Stop trying to mess with his mind. Asking next, he just wanted to see Katrina dancing with him, rather than seeing Michelle pop in and out while the song played. After the song had ended, Katrina leaned into his right ear, whispering to it from a slow, sexy-like tone. "What are you thinking about?" "Nothing," Jonathan quickly replying. The next song plays. Katrina leans her head into Jonathan's chest. She next says, "I wish this moment can last forever," she says softly to him. "Nothing lasts forever, you know," Jonathan rebukes. Lifting her head up, staring back at him, she tells him that it was time to play some speed dating. Jonathan cringing a semi-no, saying back at her, "Do this for me, please," Katrina begged him. "I am one of the 5 women here that will be sitting in one of the circle of chairs you see before you," she pointed out to him. 10 men will try to impress me within 2 minutes for a date. If you join this game, when you get to me, you can talk to me and I will decide to choose you and we can escape this place while the other 4 women will have to deal with the rest of the men here. Trying to get their attention because I will not be on the hunt anymore," finishing her explanation. Not arguing back, she pulls one of Jonathan's arms, leading him onto the desk with the sign-up sheet to sign his name in participating for the speed dating. Right, noticing this, he pats Biscuit and Jeff so they could be looking at what Jonathan was doing. "I think that gal has your brother signing up for the speed dating contest," Wright says with a semi-laugh. "Jonathan must really like this woman, for doing everything with her for the last hour it seems," Biscuit says to his friends. Jeff, looking at his watch, realizing it was almost 10, added it was time that they go home to their woman now. "We are going to leave your brother here?" Wright says next. Jeff nods a yes. Jeff, seeing his brother's jacket, was taken to the bar area. He goes up to the bar and explains to the waitress that he has to get his car keys from his brother's jacket. The waitress asking Jeff if he could point to his brother so she could verify that Jeff was telling the truth. Pointing him out, the waitress noticing Jonathan had been with Katrina. She pulled out Jonathan's jacket from under the bar, letting Jeff grab the keys. Jeff saying thank you, putting a few dollars in the tip jar at the bar before leaving the Knight's Den. Putting on his sticker, the sticker reading number 8, followed by reading the name Jonathan, no last name. Rocky, the Knight's Den bar owner, the MC for the speed dating event tonight. Rocky walks up to each of the 10 men, shaking each of their hands when passing by each one, wishing each one good luck in the process of the game. After shaking Jonathan's hand, Rocky was smiling and laughing to himself after each handshake he did. Seeming something odd about this speed dating setup, Jonathan did not want to read into more about this, but participate for Katrina asking him to. The speed dating setup tonight were that the 5 women who the men had to impress would be sitting in 5 spaced-out school-like tables with a chair opposite of which, realizing it was almost 10, added it was time that they go home to their woman now. "We are going to leave your brother here?" Wright says next. Jeff nods a yes. Jeff, seeing his brother's jacket, was taken to the bar area. He goes up to the bar and explains to the waitress that he has to get his car keys from his brother's jacket. The waitress asking Jeff if he could point to his brother so she could verify that Jeff was telling the truth. Pointing him out, the waitress noticing Jonathan had been with Katrina. She pulled out Jonathan's jacket from under the bar, letting Jeff grab the keys. Jeff saying thank you, putting a few dollars in the tip jar at the bar before leaving the Knight's Den. Putting on his sticker, the the sticker reading number 8, followed by reading the name Jonathan, no last name. Rocky, the Knight's Den bar owner, the MC for the speed dating event tonight. Rocky walks up to each of the 10 men, shaking each of their hands when passing by each one, wishing each one good luck in the process of the game. After shaking Jonathan's hand, Rocky was smiling and laughing to himself after each handshake he did. Seeming something odd about this speed dating setup, Jonathan did not want to read into more about this, but participate for Katrina asking him to. The speed dating setup tonight were that the 5 women who the men had to impress would be sitting in 5 spaced-out school-like tables with a chair opposite of the one trying to impress the women. A cooking timer was placed in between the 2 people where the talking would be going for 2 minutes, 120 seconds for the men to try their luck at a date with one of the 5 women. Tonight's event, Rocky used 5 of his waitresses who were single from the 3 bars that he owned in the city. The 5 women were very single, willing to participate, especially when Rocky paid the women each $150 to participate, in which none of the men participating knew nothing about this little secret. Rocky put the game in 2 rounds, pairing 5 men for each round. Jonathan was placed in round 2. Rocky did tell his waitresses that if one of them liked the person they were talking to, Rocky allowed them to end their spot in the game and go to a booth to talk to that individual more if they wished to. Round 1 ended with the first 5 men not being picked by any of the waitresses. Katrina looking at Jonathan while he waited up against the wall for his turn. Noticing her looking at him, giving back a warm smile to say hello without having to say hello in word form. She flashed a smile back at him, her eyes big, excited-like when looking back at him. The second round comes. 2 of the waitresses make their choices, dropping the woman from 5 to 3. Katrina being one of the 3 for the final round. Jonathan getting ready to come and sit down and pitch himself to one woman before pitching to Katrina, who was second for him to talk with. Maxine, the woman who would hear Jonathan's pitch before he could talk to Katrina. Maxine comes out with her first question to Jonathan, asking him what kind of car does he drive. I share a truck with my brother, replying to Maxine. Staring at him with a little interest, she asks if Jonathan was a guy that was into country, noticing he wore a V-neck shirt, regular jeans with boots. No, his response replying back to her. Thank you, but next, she said to him, sounding rude to Jonathan, dismissing him to Katrina while Maxine started to talk to the last guy who was participating tonight. Getting up to his feet, he waited the 120 seconds to end with the guy Katrina was talking to. Hello again, Jonathan says when sitting, staring at Katrina with a warm smile. Katrina does not say a word back to him. Cold shoulder? Jonathan said to himself. Is something wrong? Jonathan asked Katrina from a quiet tone, so nobody else could hear them too. Katrina asked then if he had gotten a phone number from her friend Maxine. Jonathan smiled, telling her she asked what kind of car I drove, and that was a turnoff for her, Jonathan says, laughing. Katrina smiled, worried before maybe Jonathan was a man who collected numbers from women. To assure her he was locked in with only her, he pulls out his phone, opening his phone contacts. Clicking on the Create a New for the contact list, he slides his phone slowly over to Katrina, asking her if she would do the honor of adding her number to his contacts. She obliges. She scrolls through his contacts, noticing he only had 6 contacts in his phone. Her number added now as the 7th. She asks, "You do not have a lot of friends?" Wondering when asking the question. It's not like that at all, Katrina. I live a quiet life. I only have a few friends. She then reaches for his right hand. Jonathan leads out his left hand. The 2 hold hands together, smiling at each other. No words being spoken. The 120-second timer ends. Katrina gets up, telling Jonathan they could leave now if they wish to. Jonathan says, "I'm ready to go wherever you want to go to." Still holding his hand, the 2 get up, making their way over to the exit. Jonathan breaks from her hand, saying he cannot forget his jacket over at the bar. There, the waitress tells him his brother came earlier to get the car keys out of the jacket. Okay, Jonathan says back, walking back over to Katrina. Seeing Katrina at the door waiting for him, she was talking to Rocky at the door while waiting. Katrina introduces Rocky to Jonathan. The two shake hands, saying hello, followed by goodbye. My brother left already, so if you're willing, or if you are not, it's cool. I need a ride home if that is okay with you, politely asking Katrina. She takes hold of Jonathan's hand again, walking him towards her car. She opens his side first before getting into the driver's side. Inside, she starts the car, turns on the radio before taking hold of Jonathan's hand again, holding it while backing out of the Knight's Den parking lot, asking for directions to where Jonathan lives at. He goes into her phone driving maps, plugging in his directions. The trip home took only 7 minutes. The 7 minutes seemed to last longer than the 7 minutes with both parties talking about this and that, followed by a handshake when arriving at Jonathan's. Thank you for the drive, and thank you for the wonderful time tonight. We did not go out, Katrina said, laughing. Unbuckling herself, Katrina leaned in quickly to kiss Jonathan. He did not break away from her. He just took it in, enjoying the moment as best he could, revel in the moment at hand. His eyes opened soon, her eyes smiling back at his. Will I see you again? Asking her, thinking to himself if he was in a dream. Yes, I would like to see you again too, Jonathan. Driving away, being discreetly next when entering the house through the garage door. Jonathan next being even more quiet when making his way downstairs to his room, getting into the shower, followed by falling asleep. Not before making a big smile in the dark from the wonderful night he had just had tonight. Chapter 3. Seeming like there were a lot of papers staring in front of Jonathan to sign, his mind thinking next if this was the right move to proceed with. The lawyer Jonathan hired advising this was the best move to do, explaining in detail, going through each paper with Jonathan. Discussing what the repercussions were, followed by the choices that were made, Jonathan understood the consequences that were followed from being an unmarried man with the new label bestowed to him now. Michelle gets her last name back. The papers from the lawyer showing him she had already changed her name back a couple of days after the divorce proceedings had started. By signing these papers, the lawyer saying, the creditors will stop with the calls and stop with the harassment for the house payments. Lawyer advising, they will not call you every day anymore, which should be a relief, right? The lawyer trying to put some positivity in a spin. This is going to help you in the long run, Jonathan. This is going to stop the bleeding with your finances. The bankruptcy will help you start again in 7 years or less, depending on where you are at with your finances by then. Signing this and that, this new beginning starting to become a headache. Jonathan asking for some water. The lawyer going out of the office to grab him some. After a few sips, Jonathan continued to look over the paperwork, reading thoroughly, reading each line from each document. The anger inside him begins to sit in his mind for what Michelle had done to him. Knowing, not able to give Michelle the whole blame to this. This was not about blaming someone for someone else's mistake. This was more of a thing that was supposed to be something mutually agreed upon. You have defaulted on the loan, lawyer explaining. In return, filing for bankruptcy will help you in the long run, Jonathan. Another thing, by taking over her debt that was incurred during the marriage, you will have a lot of money. You will be paying in the first 3 years I give it before you will be able to breathe. The lawyer on giving advice, seeing Jonathan's puzzled face with all that had been going on right now, trying to take it all in at once. Do you want to take her to civil court, fighting, she pays for some of the damages? Lawyer suggesting. I have no idea where to start looking for her, Jonathan saying before taking another sip of his water. She vanished on you? The lawyer asks. Yes, Jonathan responds back. She just left without a trace. No way in finding her. She changed her number, not able to call or text her either? Jonathan not really caring. I do not mean to pry, but could you tell me how long you were married to her? The lawyer wondering. I was married to her for 6 months. Saying this to the lawyer from under his breath, not looking up when saying. The lawyer trying to hide his small chuckle by coughing a few times. Jonathan saying it was okay to laugh at him for the short time he had been married. I am sorry for the mini laugh, my friend. I just never dealt with a case where someone was married for such a short time. Someone like you, accruing all this debt. Lawyer pleading to Jonathan to go find Michelle. Find her and then asking her to help you pay this debt down. Some tears coming out of both eyes, Jonathan utters out slowly, "We were in love, so I thought." Putting all the papers neatly in a stack for the lawyer to overlook for verification. Everything looked in order from the lawyer's eyes. Jonathan getting up to his feet to shake hands. The lawyer says he will mail the receipt and the duplicates of the papers signed today. Your payment plan will be high at first. Give it a few years to drop down. Do not worry, you are doing a good thing here. Saying his goodbye, leaving the law offices of Truman and Schmidt. A knock at the door, pounding a few good hits, awakening Jonathan. Getting to his feet. Walking to the door, opening it, seeing his brother, which barely, though the crust still in his eyes, saying hello to Jeff. Smiling at Jonathan. We ordered some food, a special breakfast for Sherry. When coming home last night I waited for you. You did not show up. Sherry got some good news at work. She got a promotion. That is great, Jonathan commending. Closing the door next. Jeff knocks on the door. Jonathan opens the door, crust still in his eye. You are not going to let me sleep in, are you? Asking his brother. It would be rude of you if you do not show up, Jeff saying. Jonathan agrees, saying he will be upstairs in a few after he takes his shower. Jeff leaves him. Jonathan, still not awake, entering the shower. Hugging Sherry when in view in the kitchen, he kisses his niece and nephews next, hugging Jeff last. The six all sitting in the kitchen, eating a table-sized meal complete with eggs, bacon, sausage, pancakes, completed with milk for the kids, orange juice for the adults. The breakfast. To celebrate Sherry's promotion from her job in nursing. 3 years ago, she had to take time off when the last kid was born. Coming back to work 6 months later, she put the hard work in to get promoted. Jonathan helping with the new baby in the home. The first girl in the home when Sarah arrived. Jeff and Jonathan were madly in love with Sarah when Sherry brought her home from the hospital. Many nights in the beginning, Sarah had a hard time falling asleep. She was one of those babies who just liked to stay awake at all hours sometimes. Jonathan was the one who realized this from early on. His solution to this problem simple to his mind. He took over the parent duties to watch Sarah until she fell asleep in his arms. He had nothing going on but playing video games or just watching pointless videos on the internet. Jeff and Sherry, grateful Jonathan was there to help with the baby duties. And thus, this was the reasoning why Sarah always ended up sleeping in his room when she felt tired. Thinking to herself Jonathan's room was her room as well. Earlier in the day, while everyone was asleep, Jeff woke up before anyone could see him leave. Jeff buying the flowers, buying the balloons, getting the home ready before making his way to Jonathan. Sarah sitting on her uncle's lap, a text comes through. Jonathan looking at who would be texting him this early for a Saturday morning. It was Katrina texting, asking Jonathan if he wanted to meet her at the fountain by the park downtown that overlooked the governor's mansion. Holding Sarah in one hand, holding his phone in the other hand. Texting back to her, it would take him about 20 minutes to get down there, going back downstairs. Handing Jeff Sarah back. Jonathan in his room, changing into some shorts and a polo shirt. Back upstairs, Jeff and Sherry noticing Jonathan dressed, ready to go somewhere. They ask him on where he is going, noticing his wardrobe change suddenly. I have plans with Katrina, the girl I met last night at the Knight's Den. I am meeting her at the fountain downtown by the government buildings. A 10-minute ride share later, meeting Katrina in front of the fountain. Seeing her just 9 hours before, wondering to himself how would they greet each other the next time when meeting. All laid to rest when the two walked up to one another. Katrina immediately hugging Jonathan from an instant, followed by a kiss. Jonathan not expecting it, but returning the favor by not breaking his lips from hers. How have you been? Katrina, her eyes staring majestically. Jonathan feeling the same way back at her. I am doing well, although it has only been 9 hours since we last saw each other. Apologizing for waking him up, she adds it was just too good of a Saturday morning to not pass up. A Saturday to take pictures of the scenery before Lake Fair ruins it next week when the fair comes to town, Katrina explaining. Lake Fair? Jonathan sounding confused. You do not know what Lake Fair is? Katrina asked him, wondering then. Thinking to himself, it came to him realizing every year before the July 4th weekend, downtown Olympia by the waterfront turned into an amusement park for 1 week, when on July 4th a huge fireworks show would proceed, ending the event. I remember now what that was, Jonathan explaining it was not something he cared to go to every year. Why, do you ever go to it before? Katrina asked, wondering. Not knowing how to respond, he adds, I went to it 8 years ago when I was dating my then ex-wife, Michelle, saying it from a sour tone voice. Feeling as if she had struck a nerve, she broke from his arms, apologizing next for bringing up the past for Jonathan. Quickly, though responding back, it was not Katrina's fault for asking, explaining he hardly went out anymore after his divorce. Taking his hand, the two walked around the buildings, breaking every few moments, Katrina taking hold of her Canon camera, taking photos of the buildings and the sceneries around her. After each photo taken, she would hold Jonathan's hand after letting it go when taking the next photo, holding his hand back after putting her camera back around her neck. Not minding, not thinking this is something odd. Jonathan felt a piece of himself he had never felt from the hand holding from her, along with the random times Katrina just kissed him for no reason, when she took a photo that she really liked. To someone else, this might question if this woman was loose, maybe easy. That never came to Jonathan's mind at all. Only thing on his mind thinking he was outside on a clear summer day with a woman who wanted to spend time with him. This, something he was cherishing right now, enjoying every minute of it. 2 hours of shooting with her camera, she asks they take a break. Noticing a taco truck parked by the other side of the lake, she says they go get some tacos for this nice day out. Jonathan agreeing, Katrina holding on to his hand while walking. Jonathan paying for the tacos, plates in his hands to carry next, both looking for somewhere to sit. Seeing an empty bench close by, directing they go to it quickly before anyone can get the spot. Sitting on the bench, Katrina spreading her legs out over Jonathan's while eating. She asked him if there was anything he wanted to know about her past and such. I don't want to pry. His response to her. I did have a boyfriend when I moved out here. I met him like a few weeks after getting settled in. Not much to tell though, he was a jerk and a cheater. He always wanted to borrow money from me. Crossing her arms in disgust-like form before handing her empty plastic plate, asking Jonathan to put it in the trash where his side he was closest to it. Katrina stroking Jonathan's beard, playing like fashion. She says next she was glad that the two were broken up, because she wanted someone who wanted to be with her, and not just be with her for the convenience of it. Avoiding basically the theory of how people hate being alone, so it was better to be with someone than to not be alone. The famous theory read, Katrina finishing. This response told Jonathan Katrina was not the type of woman who was needy or needed validation for everything. He liked this about her. Playing with the beard, she still asked if he was ever planning to shave his beard down, letting her see him with no facial hair someday. Laughing at the suggestion, he added that his beard to him was like wearing a mask he had been wearing for all these years that have passed. Having him escape the world of reality from people, especially hiding away from women. Katrina clearly understanding what Jonathan was trying to say. What he was trying to mean by this. She moved herself closer to him, leaning next to kiss him once more. The kiss did not last long this time. Before Jonathan could blink, Katrina's eyes staring deeply into Jonathan's. One arm around Jonathan's neck, Katrina says to him she could still see some of the pain inside of him still, showing from the outside. She added she could feel the pain lingering, not being able to leave his body yet. Not saying anything back, but to only nod, instead both getting up from the park bench, Jonathan reaching for her arms, Helping her up to her feet, he tells her, "Maybe this is a sign of the good that is to come, maybe?" "How so?" Katrina asking. "I should try and open myself up, starting today." Jonathan being positive about feeling great with himself. "What do you think?" Looking at Katrina for advice from this discovery amongst himself. "You should," hugging Jonathan tightly afterwards. "What about you?" Jonathan questioning back at her. "What about me?" Katrina smiling afterwards. "I was asking if you were going to try and date again, like how I guess I am supposed to be now." Jonathan looking down at the cement ground, wondering if what he said made any sense to even him when saying it. Her response back? She explained she was a beautiful African queen. She was not interested in men right now, for men right now seem to only want one thing. That, the one thing she refuses to let any man have. "Love is worth more than just having fun," Katrina saying, holding on to both of Jonathan's hands. "You are a queen to me," Jonathan says, smiling. "Have you ever tried online dating?" Katrina asks. "No way," Jonathan argues. "I do not want to be one of those guys who has to beg for someone's affection online." Katrina laughing at his response. She explains then she had been on this new dating app called Meet and Greet. Explaining through the dating site, the picture pulls up on the profile, and under their picture, there is a bar underneath the name that says, "Meet," meaning do you want to meet this person? And next to the meet part is where it says greet, meaning you are just saying hello to the person, and that is that. Jonathan asking Katrina if this online dating thing is such a simple concept, then why isn't everyone meeting online and going out with one another? Implying that a love connection is created for everyone. "There are always doubts," Katrina jokes. "Not everyone connects as a match sometimes. That is just how it is. You take a chance and see what happens," she adds. Looking back at her, he responds at how glad he was they both met in real life, rather than having to meet through a dating website. "Yes, we did," Katrina saying proudly. "I call us one of the lucky ones that do not need to go online to find love." Confused next, Jonathan realizing Katrina was maybe trying to push him into dating online. "I have to ask without sounding weird, Katrina. Are you trying to push me into going into online dating?" Asking her. "I am just saying you need to get back out there, avoiding seclusion again." Confused still, Jonathan wondering what was going on here in the moment. Katrina pointing out to a couple who were down by the pond feeding the ducks. The two, Jonathan and Katrina, see the man handing breadcrumbs to his woman, she who was in a wheelchair. He handed the crumbs to her to throw in the water, giving her breadcrumbs each time her hand was empty of them. "See that beautiful couple there?" Katrina pointing out to Jonathan. "That is love to me. Love in where you see no force of nature is stopping them in their tracks. You could see her handicap is non-visible. That is true love there." Katrina pressing back to Jonathan when explaining. The two next see the man hugging his woman in the wheelchair, her arms holding on back to his next, followed by him kissing her cheeks next, before kissing her lips in front of everyone around them. Taking pictures of the lovely moment, Katrina says, "Ah, you see that?" Leaning into Jonathan's chest, Jonathan holding her in his arms next. With nothing else to say in the moment, the day turned into night for the two. Still sitting on the same bench from earlier, both letting time fly by from talking about everything they could talk about, until they both ran out of things to talk about. Where they did not run out of things to talk about, but knew it was getting late and both wanted to continue their conversation at another time in another place. Driving Jonathan back home, parked in the driveway, the two look at one another. "What are you thinking?" Jonathan asks. "What are you thinking?" Katrina throwing the question back at him. With his eyes just admiring Katrina, he did not have anything to say but just stare, admiring her beauty in the moonlight, telling himself, the next thing to gradually happen would be a long kiss goodnight, before he asked her a question that had been ringing in his head. In this quiet moment that they were sharing, "What are we?" saying with a breaking tone of voice. "Excuse me?" Katrina responds. I just wondered what all this is, and I wonder what and how you came into my life at the right time. Her eyes wince. A smile comes out before another kiss is planted on his lips. Good night, Jonathan. I will be seeing you soon enough. Unlocking her car door, Jonathan telling himself that this was his lead to get out. For there will be another time, another moment, where being with Katrina in the future will happen again.